businessman pulled away this older man's chair at a restaurant and learned a life lesson. Clarence Purvis, a man in his 90s, had lunch every day while keeping a picture of his deceased wife by his side. When asked about it, his response was so moving that it brought tears to everyone's eyes. This incident took place in a small diner in Georgia, USA, during lunchtime. A tall man named Travis Howard entered the diner in a hurry, engrossed in a phone conversation. Despite his urgency, he struggled to find an available table as the place was crowded. Eventually, he noticed an elderly man sitting alone at a table with 2 chairs. Travis decided to wait for a few minutes, hoping the other chair would be occupied, but as time passed, it became apparent that the older man was dining alone. Without uttering a word, Travis took the empty chair from the table and moved it to the counter, intending to have his meal there. The elderly man stood up and questioned Travis about taking his chair without permission. Amused, Travis responded, "Why would I need to ask you for an unused chair, sir? It was unoccupied, and you were clearly eating alone." The older man looked at Travis with determination and revealed that he was not alone. He was accompanied by his wife, pointing to the picture frame on the table. The frame contained 2 photos, one in black and white of a young woman and a more recent colored picture of an older lady. Travis felt perplexed and struggled to comprehend the situation. Despite his time constraints, he returned the chair to the older man, as a nearby family had just vacated their table, leaving 4 vacant chairs. Travis sat back down and observed the man as he continued to have lunch with the picture frame. Eventually, the older man noticed Travis's curious gaze and motioned for him to come closer. As Travis approached, the elderly man asked, "Are you lost or simply curious? I see that you keep staring at me. Please, take your chair and join us." Overwhelmed by curiosity, Travis temporarily forgot about his impending meeting. He sat at the table with the older man and the pictures, unaware that he was about to hear a story that would move him to tears. In 1948, when Clarence Purvis was 17 years old, he embarked on his usual weekly trip to the barber shop. The day seemed ordinary, with Clarence running errands in the morning and working in his father's shoe shop in the afternoon. However, he had a strange premonition that this day would hold something remarkable. After getting a satisfying haircut, Clarence left the barber shop and headed to work. Eager to return home, as his mother was preparing his favorite dinner of chicken fried steak with mashed potatoes and gravy, Clarence decided to close the shop 15 minutes early, taking advantage of his father's early departure. Just as Clarence was about to lock up, the door chime rang, indicating the arrival of a new customer. Initially, with his back turned, Clarence informed them that the shop was closing and they should return the following day. However, when he turned around, he laid eyes on an incredibly beautiful young woman, around his age, whom he had never seen before. The woman's beauty left Clarence speechless for a moment. She explained that she needed an exception because one of her heels had broken, and she had a ball to attend the next day. Moved by her request, Clarence immediately offered to help her. She laughed, handed him the broken heels, and said she would be back at 10 o'clock the next day to retrieve them. The young man agreed, and his intentions to close the store early were quickly forgotten. As soon as the woman left, he immediately began meticulously adjusting her shoes, putting in great effort to make them look their best. Clarence pondered about ways to impress her when they would meet again the following day. The next day, the young man arrived at the shoe store before his father, dressed in his finest attire, eagerly anticipating the reunion with the woman in high heels. Realizing that his nervousness had prevented him from asking for her name the day before, the young man's attention was drawn to the sound of the store's entrance bell. Hurrying from the back, Clarence was overjoyed to find that it was the enchanting woman from before. Using his friendly and playful demeanor, he engaged in conversation with her while handing over the shoes. During their exchange, he discovered that her name was Carolyn. However, they felt the need for a proper conversation and made plans to meet at a local snack bar the following day. From that point onward, everything went splendidly, and it didn't take long for the two of them to begin dating, feeling an unbreakable bond. Unfortunately, as the country became embroiled in war, with increasing US involvement in World War II and escalating tensions, young men like Clarence were drafted overnight, abruptly abandoning their lives to join the military. During a time when long-distance communication relied heavily on letters, the young man found himself unable to inform his beloved about his circumstances. It was Clarence's parents who informed Carolyn of his departure. Throughout the war, Clarence attempted to exchange letters with his parents and Carolyn, but due to the constant movement associated with the intense conflict, this became nearly impossible. Nevertheless, he never ceased thinking about her, even for a single day. After enduring 10 arduous months in combat, the young man returned. Due to an unfortunate twist of fate, he was unable to locate Carolyn whatsoever. He returned to his hometown and inquired with everyone he could find about her whereabouts, but nobody had any information. It seemed that Carolyn had also relocated, but he persisted in his search for over a decade, refusing to consider dating others. By the age of 28, Clarence had become a skilled mechanic. When a customer's motorcycle broke down during a journey, Clarence traveled to California to fix it, seizing the opportunity to fulfill his long-standing desire to visit the state. Following the repair, he decided to pamper himself at a nearby barber shop, where he took a seat and grabbed a magazine while awaiting his turn. As he waited, he noticed that Californians had a tendency to openly discuss their lives. Clarence bashfully shared his tale of falling in love and being unable to find his beloved due to the war. The barber stared at Clarence and gestured for him to step forward and take a seat in the chair. Following the barber's instructions, Clarence sat down and received the most incredible news of his life. The barber began cutting his hair, and as the locks fell to the floor, he disclosed that his own daughter had been consumed by an obsession to find a mysterious man for over a decade. Astonishingly, the barber was Carolyn's father. He explained that they had relocated to California when the war escalated, causing Carolyn to lose touch with her one true love. Once the haircut was complete, Clarence politely asked the barber if he could pose a question. Upon receiving permission, he promptly requested permission to marry Carolyn. Despite not having seen her in over a decade, Clarence didn't hesitate and firmly made his request, which was readily accepted by Carolyn's father. The couple reunited swiftly, and the experience was magical. It felt as though they had never been separated. Following their long-awaited reunion, they married quickly and decided to return to the town where their love story began. There, they established a mechanic shop, with Carolyn managing the administrative side of the business. They remained together until her passing in 2013, celebrating 55 years of an enchanting marriage. Following Carolyn's demise, the elderly Clarence dined daily at the humble diner where they first met. Carrying a picture frame with Carolyn's photographs to keep her presence with him during meals, as she had been for countless decades.